Hello, everyone. My name is Moksha Mechanda, and on behalf of Google Developers Group West Sweden, I would like to welcome you all to our virtual event, International Women's Day, #ProgressNotPerfection. International Women's Day occurs on March 8th every year. It marks a moment to celebrate and provide visibility for the incredible contributions of women around the world and is a call to action for accelerating gender parity. IWD is Women Tech Makers annual event campaign, where our community hosts events all around the world during the months of March and April in celebration of this moment. It is a time to host events that create connections, educate and inspire, and recognize that we still have ways to go to close the gender gap. Here, our theme celebrates all kinds of progress, big or small, and the strength we demonstrate when we don't let fear hold us back from following our dreams. So often, we hold ourselves to impossibly high standards and feel disappointed when we can't reach them, or worse, we don't even try. When we let the idea of being perfect go, we allow ourselves the space and the freedom to try new things, to make mistakes, and to learn. We see that all of our experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, have made us who we are today. Instead of striving for perfection, we can strive for growth and discovery. Instead of being fixated on the destination, we enjoy the journey wherever it takes us. Our paths aren't always linear, and we may come across seemingly impossible challenges. But when we celebrate #ProgressNotPerfection, we are celebrating all we've accomplished, big and small, and our inner strength and resilience that allowed us to get here. On this note, I would like to welcome our two wonderful speakers for today, Murriel McCabe and Sara Aghaeian. Our first speaker, Murriel, is a customer engineer with Google Cloud, working with customers and the community to solve technical and business challenges. She is currently excited about all things DevOps, information security, Kubernetes, and observability. She is also a big advocate for mentorship of girls or youth in STEM technology and enjoys plugging into the local Southern California tech and makers community. When outdoors, she can often be spotted on a bike, by the coastline, in the garden, or covered in sawdust. A warm welcome to you, Murriel. Our next speaker is Sara Aghaeian. She is a digital process manager in Polestar, Sweden. Her area of interest is business process modeling and how to use technology to minimize the manual processes. Sara has a wide background, worked in different countries before coming to Sweden. All those experiences made her a successful life coach and business instructor as well. At her free time, she plays theater and she enjoys being on the stage. A warm welcome to you, Sara. Now, I would like to hand over to our first speaker, Murriel, and the stage is yours.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Moksha. It's really great to be here. One moment, I will share my screen. All right, we're live here with Progress Not Perfection, the journey to DevOps. About the things you're talking about, that is my sweet, precious gray cat Aghaeian, and here's the garden. I spend a lot of time when I'm not online, offline, and growing fruits, plants, herbs, and veggies. A little bit here about my bio. You can see, one of the jokes about DevOps is you go into DevOps, you become a YAML engineer because there's so much time spent in YAML and configuration files. So please don't do any syntax or linting on this because it's not going to be maybe an altogether accurate representation. But here's just a little bit more about me. So what I wanted to talk about today really was just this journey to DevOps in the cloud. And I'll go into a little bit of the start of my career in tech. And from there, sort of parallel this idea of the rise in modernization throughout tech as more and more companies started to come online, move to the cloud, move out of their private data centers, and also start to improve their software development practices. My career in tech and my journey has also kind of come along with seeing these transitions and adapting to these transitions in the work that I was doing. And where I started was, initially maybe not expecting to get into tech, doing black box QA testing. And then from there, spending a lot of time in the IT world. So everything from, hardware all the way through applications. And as cloud really started to become a thing that was common for people to say, and that more and more folks just really started to understand and know, as that became a really common part of the tech vocabulary and just kind of, I think, the business world in general, I started to transition in my role from where I was in IT and systems administration into DevOps and cloud engineering. And you can see here, this is sort of the same life cycle as a cloud sort of evolves and comes into shape. So before I go into a little bit about my history, I wanted to talk a little bit too about just a few moments in cloud history. And as you can see here, I won't go into every one of these items, but this is a little bit of a long tail, about 40, 45 years coming in from, some of the initial origins with ARPANET and so on, all the way up through the first mentions of the word cloud and, public clouds starting to really become a thing and become available out there. So this is this entire span of, as you see, decades. But now if you look at half of that time, there are so many different developments, so many different changes, so many different cycles of innovation that have happened in half of the time that it took us to get from the initial conception of what would become the internet all the way up through where we are today. And as you can probably see with just how fast things are evolving, how quickly, new tech is coming out on, our iPhones and our personal devices, and even like our work systems as we've been evolving to become, remote and virtual online. I think these cycles are just going to get faster and faster, and more innovation is going to be seen, as people work through and take this technology that has been really developed and gaining momentum and be able to do things faster and faster. We can see things in virtual worlds and avatars and, the tech and the cloud world that we live in, even another 5-10 years from now, may be drastically different from this past cycle of 15-20 years. So we'll all, I think, be there to see what the next generation is. And I think all of you folks in the developer groups are going to be part of shaping what that innovation and what that future might look like. And of course, as part of this, I wanted to highlight a few of the women in computing. You may have heard some of the stories of all of these different women that in the past have just been really monumental in being able to shape, and create inventions and patents, everything from like Hedy Lamarr, for example, who was also a Hollywood actress, but happened to be part of the patents that really were pivotal in Wi-Fi technology. And then you can see there Ada Lovelace and Grace Hopper, and as you may have seen and heard as well, there are just a lot of these different, conferences and events, and we even have a subsea cable that is named after Grace Hopper, and that's just this massive pipe that, crosses and connects us. I won't read through all of this, but, as I started to look into some of the history, there are just so many different accomplishments and contributions from women in computing. And this was only the starter of a snapshot, before the 1980s. So there's so many more, I think, that are out there that are just these really, really amazing inventions, innovations, and so on. And there's just so much value in having that diversity and having that perspective to be able to help with, contributing to more perspective, different points of view, more innovation, and so on. So now let's come back to DevOps. Just to kind of set a baseline, this is a term, a field, a philosophy that has had many different definitions. There's no one set, and depending on who you talk to and the organization that you're with, this may be defined in very, very different ways. But the two parts of this were dev and ops kind of come from that idea of merging development and operations. But I think one of the key things, as I had mentioned earlier, that is really part of DevOps is this idea of continuous improvement and of being able to make this small incremental progress, and also being able to share that across the team, where everybody is, one, working to improve themselves, working to improve the software and the platform, and working to be able to help improve the team and the organization as a whole. So here's a little bit, some of you may have seen, if you're familiar with some of these concepts of this idea of this tool chain. And even though it really is using some of these terms that are specific to software, a lot of this, I think, philosophically can apply to culture and to people as well, where, you might have planning, setting goals, monitoring, doing the check-in, and this cycle kind of continues over and over again, where you start on this journey, but you're not necessarily doing all of the planning, and you build something and then you walk away. You kind of keep coming back to this and checking in with yourself, because it is an ongoing cycle to be able to improve, and it's a journey that is pretty much kind of a lifelong journey. So really quickly, from a very high level, I'll talk about this a little bit, but this is a snapshot from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation of the landscape of some of the tools that fall into cloud native computing. And it's a lot. I mean, it kind of can be amazing, as you know, that things are continually evolving. And I think part of having this really great community is to be able to start to demystify and to break down some of these things. So now let me take it back to the beginning of how my career journey really led me here. This is a snapshot from one of those career days in school. And as you can see, it does not say computer scientist or engineer or, DevOps or cloud. When I was a child, I had really wanted to go into medicine, and that's what I started at. I went to UC Berkeley, and I was actually double majoring at the time in molecular biology and comparative literature, because I enjoyed writing. That was another thing that I had been really into. But as I continued along that path, I really realized that this was not something that I loved. I didn't really enjoy physical chemistry. I knew that, it's definitely a commitment to go into med school. You have a lot of, chemistry, molecular bio I actually really enjoyed. But once I got to some of the other physical chemistry classes, I thought about another 10 years of having to study and be in that same field. And it just really didn't spark that, spark joy, enjoyment, or anything. I kind of looked at that road and said, I don't think this is where I want to go. This isn't the field for me. But at the time, I was actually interning at a startup. And I was doing, as I mentioned, QA black box testing. I didn't really know too much about anything else in comp sci at the time, but one of the things that I really loved is that there was so much encouragement of learning. They had, weekly lunch and learns where you could come in, somebody would give a talk about something in tech. I was able to do testing. This was testing at the time for the startup was working on web-based college applications. So you would basically go through, stress test everything on the front end, and the culture, the community, the technology, like everything was amazing. I totally fell in love with this world of tech. And as I kind of continued on with this internship, I thought, you know what, I think this is where I want to be. So I moved forward and just started to explore, and this is really what got me started. So after I graduated from school, that was up in the Bay Area, then I moved back home to Los Angeles. Actually, I'm from LA right now, so I'm not sure if I announced that in the beginning. And I was working at this boutique consulting service. And what we did was basically tech services for companies of all sizes. You know, we would have some very large, you know, medical, some government agencies and so on, but then we would also have some really small companies as well. And the problems would vary. So it would be anything from maybe the hardware side of things and tech support and troubleshooting to maybe some custom software development projects. But also at the same time, we had what was maybe a common model at the time, but we had some custom boutique web hosting. And essentially, really, this was literally a closet that was inside the office at the time that had a set of these different, you know, tower and rack servers. And that was our collection of web servers. We maintained them from end to end. When we needed to do upgrades, we had to pull and swap out hardware. We had to schedule downtime and be there off hours to make sure that our customers wouldn't go out. And we were running a collection of these systems. And they were all very much kind of this idea of, excuse me, bare metal or maybe virtual machine-based hosting. You know, everything was running directly on the systems. You know, it wasn't super scalable, but we were able to provide the service to our customers. So they could sign up for us, and, you know, we ran our own email hosting, our own web hosting, and, you know, other custom software applications. There was also a lot of just, you know, hardware and wiring and getting, you know, maybe buildings set up from the ground up, everything from end to end, from running the cables all the way up through being able to set up the networks and VPNs and so on. So this is just a photo of one of the server closets that we had worked on. And as you can see, there's sort of this transformation from the spaghetti into a slightly cleaner set of wiring. So after I worked there for a while, I actually went out on my own and I started a freelance consulting business, essentially doing a lot of the same things that I was at my previous company, but working for myself at the time. So I had done that for a number of years and had really enjoyed it, but also I was pretty much on the clock 24/7. You know, I had a small staff that I would outsource some work to here and there. I would bring in, you know, various folks to be able to help support different projects. And it was really kind of an exciting time as well, because there was just so much freedom of being able to work on different types of, you know, software development projects. Some of them might be system and network as well. But after a while, I, you know, realized that, you know, just that consulting life was very demanding. And also, you know, the idea of working for yourself versus for a company, you have this transition to having to worry about, you know, payroll for your employees, benefits, everything else. So I went to a small manufacturing company known as Mars, and I was the IT manager there. The company built these, if you can see this little appliance here, they were these air curtains that basically go over doorways and kind of create this fan. It's an air barrier for environmental separation and some other thing like pest control and so on. And at Mars, I'd worked also kind of a range of different roles that might deal with everything from tech support all the way up through you know, SAP administration to working with our outside providers. So we also had a server closet there, but one thing that we really started to rely on, and this is something that you know, a lot of organizations, some of the larger organizations are now really starting to undergo this transition in a bigger way, is to start to move to having more and more systems based in the cloud. Because, I mean, one, you don't have to worry about maintaining hardware, swapping out systems and everything. You can scale on demand. You just have so many other benefits from that. So while I was there at Mars, we started to undergo that transition of being able to take some of the systems that we were running on site. We had to worry about power and, you know, all of the backups and disaster recovery and so on. And we started to transition and move some of that, move some of our web and applications to the cloud. And, you know, like I mentioned, there's so many different companies that are now undergoing that in different ways, especially when you look at the really, really large organizations. It's, you know, we were a small group, so it was a little bit easier and faster to be able to evolve and move. But if you've got really massive companies, then the transition takes a lot more orchestration. And so just a few other photos of kind of life as an IT manager, which, you know, may one day involve updating some of our server blades, and another day might be doing some custom SQL reporting because, you know, there was just a need for a lot of business on-demand data analysis, and a lot of it at the time was very much ad hoc. There wasn't a ton of self-service data, which is definitely where things are moving towards now. Oh, so I kind of thrown this in as well because, you know, this was sort of the start. This transition marked, you know, as I was going from IT management into my next role, there was definitely now this sort of on-ramp of, you know, something that I had been doing for years and years, and really me starting to see this change in, you know, where technology was going and the things that we were focusing on. And it kind of went from this old school like idea of all of these things that were part of sort of the systems administration world and the hardware and so on, to now everything being so cloud centric. And as you can see at the top, you know, you've got the major cloud providers there that are providing everything from your full infrastructure end to end to, you know, maybe platforms. If you are all familiar with things like, you know, Heroku and App Engine and so on, where you don't even have to worry about the infrastructure, the hardware. You just have your code and you ship it somewhere, and all of the backend is taken care of for you, essentially. And then also, you know, there's this other idea now of software as a service where, you know, in the past you might have had to build or, you know, pay maybe extensive licensing for software, but now it's all just sort of available as a service. You don't have to install it on, you know, a system that is running in your office. You can just use these cloud services. And that was a really big transition that was happening at the time. And as you can see, there are just all of these other different areas and categories that are part of the way that you can kind of run things within cloud and the type of platforms available. So, you know, as this change was happening, I kind of realized that, you know, my role would not be able to evolve that fast as I was working at this manufacturing company in the IT side of things. You know, I could have likely worked there for another 50 or 60 years and retired. You know, it was such that it was a very sort of stable, consistent company. But I also knew there wouldn't be a lot of opportunity to really innovate or change. So so I'd switched and now really started to focus on this DevOps world. And I was working for, so my next role after that was at this virtual reality startup known as Mindshow. And we were making a content creation tool for virtual reality creators that let you basically create your own animations using just your VR. So you didn't need to know all of the modeling and so on. You could just use a set of characters and a palette of different icons and backgrounds and so on to create your own shorts. As long as you had access to a VR headset, you could make your own content. And then from there, it was a really fun journey working with the startup, but also, you know, a lot of the just excitement and changes as startups continue to change and evolve. So my next role after that was at Johnson Controls, which has several divisions, very much in manufacturing, HVAC as well. But the division that I was in specifically was building, was in the R&D department, and we were working on a lot of smart building technology. So very much centered on IoT, Internet of Things. Very much this division was very much cloud first, working on building things and being able to use that model for having connected devices, connected buildings, and so on. And then kind of continued this evolution of, expanding to an even more expansive set of technologies. So there's everything from the looking at this entire software development lifecycle of now how are we managing our code? How are we managing our we'd mentioned observability. How are we doing our logging and monitoring? There were just so many areas now that were opened up, and it was kind of the second or third or maybe 10th wave of being able to say, all right, even though these are new things that, are very different than the things that I've been working with in the past, like how can I continue to be able to, evolve, to learn, to be able to take the things that I worked on previously and be able to apply it to sort of a new set of principles. So I decided to break down maybe just even a few portions of this, because I know there were a lot of screens of, different logos and tools and so on. I won't spend too much time on that, but a lot of time in my last two roles at both Moksha and Johnson Controls, we're very much looking at this idea of, continuous integration and continuous delivery and deployment, which very much kind of fits into this idea of improvement. It's like the build and release of software. And this is sort of a snapshot of some of the different tools that are out there for being able to do everything from the version control of code to being able to do building and testing, and then also releasing and pushing that software out to different cloud and deployment targets. I'd also spent a lot of time in the world of automation tools. So this is kind of another set of tooling within the DevOps world for being able to automate and create a consistent set of configurations and templates, so that now you can take things like defining your, instead of just doing code for your actual application, now you have code that you can use to be able to manage your systems, so that if you need a server, you need a system to be able to run an e-commerce app, it gets configured in a consistent way, or at least you have that also versioned and changeable and modifiable and have the state that's always going to be reflected. Or if you need to run something, instead of having to click and do something, with a set of 20 steps, those steps can now be automated, and it just really helps to accelerate the pace that you're able to build and deploy. And then on top of that, there's kind of a round of security and testing tools, because that's another really important part of being able to integrate your security and testing throughout the process. Kind of another principle of this idea of continuous improvement is that rather than doing security later, you're now doing this term of sort of shifting left, where now you're integrating security and secure practices throughout your entire software development lifecycle. It's almost like your system's health, or your personal health, rather than waiting till you're sick to try to become healthy. You now kind of incorporate these healthy practices throughout your entire lifecycle and journey, right? And at the end of it, another part of that whole kind of continuous integration cycle, as I'd mentioned, is this idea of logging and monitoring, where you also kind of keep reflecting and having these health checks that are built in to be able to see, how are the system doing, collecting system logs. This is only a very small snapshot, but there are a ton of tools that are out there for being able to go back and monitor both the application and the systems that run your application. And then also to send out alerts when there is a problem, or when it does seem like there may be a problem upcoming. So now to kind of tie all these things together, you know, at the very after kind of the end of this journey, as Moksha mentioned, I'm here at Google Cloud working as a customer engineer. And essentially, you know, there are things like Kubernetes that I work with regularly. My main focus is in the world of application modernization. So things that are related to, you know, DevOps, to cloud engineering, and really what I do is help our different customers and internal teams be able to solve problems with cloud tech and figure out really how to be able to make some of these transitions that I'd worked on as I was working directly with infrastructure, things that I was doing for the companies that I was working at. Now I'm helping other customers to be able to do the same. So to kind of close things out, I think one of the things that I've really valued in the tech world is this idea of community, like groups such as the GDG, I think is a really amazing place to be able to get the resources and support. And that's something that as I went through my career that I really realized was super valuable, and being able to get help, get career advice, get, you know, maybe pair programming support to look over my shoulder if I was working or stuck on a hard problem. Because this is essentially something that, you know, you don't have to be a lone ranger or solo, you know, engineer working through problems. There's just a lot of community out there to be able to be supportive and helpful. And I think it's super, super valuable. As was mentioned earlier, mentorship, I think, is another thing that is really, really key. This was an event that I had done with an organization. I was director for Girls in Tech Los Angeles. It's actually an international organization with different chapters as well. And we would do a lot of these different mentorship events, such as this one with Girl Scouts, just to be able to help get the next generations really excited about working in tech, but also to show people from all communities and all backgrounds that they could also be in tech. You know, if there's some groups that we had worked with that may not know any engineers, like they don't have anyone in their family or immediate community. So it was really important to be able to go in and give that opportunity, but also for them to see themselves reflected in the volunteers that were coming in to help. And just another thing on
Muriel, just adding on, we're kind of running out of time.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah, let me continue on. Thank you for the time check. Here are a couple of really great resources on DevOps. I think I've only got a couple more, and I'm gonna breeze through these. This is the last note. It's an internet quote. Don't really know if it's from Mark Twain, as there hasn't been solid you know, attribution stats, but the quote itself I think is super important. Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. So thank you, Moksha. Thank you, everybody. Sorry for running a little bit over, but again, really appreciate being here with all of you, and it's been great talking.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Muriel. That was a great presentation. I can. It was quite interesting to see the list of women, you know, before the 80s that were part of tech. It's amazing. Thank you so much. As we're running out of time, I would like to give the stage or hand over to Sara.
Yeah, thank you. We saw a lot of cat picture, and here you might hear cat noise. Yeah, so I have 2 cats at home. Okay, great. So let me share the screen. And here is my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hi everyone, and thanks Moksha and Google Developer for inviting me to this event. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. So today I'm going to talk about how our mindset matter practically in every aspect of our life. It's said that success, weakness, happiness, depression, or even sometimes, in my opinion, sickness are all about our mindset. We are in the age of distraction, and many of us find it difficult to reach our peak potential life. We have a lot of worries around finance, families, anxiety, fears, and all these distractions coming at us from all the direction. So it's very hard to focus on improving ourselves. Our lives brings a lot of wave of stress that cannot figure out how to live the life that we dream of. The good news is that you don't have to stay stuck on the hamster wheel of life. You can achieve your goal once you shift your focus to self-improvement and changing mindset instead of survival. And then you can transform your life with joy and happiness. In my personal life, as Moksha said, living in 5 different countries, I learned well that without adopting or completely changing the mindset is not possible to succeed or achieve our dream. So today, I'm going to share with you some of my own experience, which helped me to grow and develop my mindset to be a different person. So in the beginning, let me ask you a question. Think a few seconds about your current situation in your life. How satisfied you are today? If you want to give a score 1 to 10 to your overall satisfaction, what is your score? With your job, with your relationship, with your income, with the country that you are living, with family, what is your score? Can someone open the camera and talk about his or her life satisfaction? Okay, let me ask you another question. Why you didn't turn on the camera? What stopped you from talking about yourself, which is the easiest topic, I guess? My guess is that it was because of fears or obstacle. Perhaps your thought was that my face is tired and I'm not looking good enough to turn on the camera. Or it could be because you thought maybe she asked me some more questions which I'm not comfortable to answer. Maybe you lay down on bed or sofa, which is difficult for you to sit down and talk. There could be many reasons for each of you not to turn on the camera and speak up. If we get back to a minute ago and look at what I asked and what you react, and we go in a slow motion mode this time, you will see the moment when I asked turn on the camera, there was a trigger for a voice inside your head saying that, what this girl want to ask me? What if she asks me some question that I don't have an answer for it? Why me? Maybe someone else can turn on the camera. And all of this, if this happened and that happened, came to your brain. And you started thinking of those, and then the result was to keep your camera off and stay silent, right? This simple experiment demonstrates the power of your brain and the fact of cause and effect. It shows that what you are thinking in your head has a huge impact on your action. Our brain is a small factor, but the production line is very active and producing hundreds of actions, decisions, thoughts, and beliefs in our life. And at the result, a combination of all those creates our mindset. And that's why we are happy or unhappy with our decision, action, and in total with our life. All is coming from here, our brain. So if we could take a control of this controlling system, then we would have more satisfaction and happiness in life, right? So our mindset is an ingredient of our action and outcome of our life. We cannot use cement as an ingredient and expect a delicious chocolate muffin. We cannot feed ourselves with burger and mayonnaise and expect to be slim. We should be very careful with every single thing that we eat when we want to lose weight at the end. It is exactly the same when we want to change our life. Our thinking cannot fill our brain with a lot of negativity and poison and expect to be positive. And I'm telling you, it's not easy to control your brain and your thoughts. But how? How we can have a grow mindset and move from a fixed mindset to a grow mindset? 15 years ago, when I decided to move out of my country, Iran, it was the most difficult decision in my life that I could imagine. What will happen if I cannot succeed? What if I cannot afford the expenses? I will miss my family. What if I cannot stand alone and one day I'm sick and no one is there to take care of me? So many thinking in my head to stop me from reaching my goal. Our brain has defense mechanism. Whenever we decide to do a change in anything, in job, living place, even a small thing like when you want to change your hairstyle, your hair color, your brain starts defending and push you back. The good news is that if you are having all these fears before a change, your brain is functioning well. Congratulations. It's normal. And our brain designed to show this reaction. When our goal is bigger, the defense mechanism and the defense machine is working hard to stop you. So don't worry about this part. A few weeks ago, a friend of mine wanted to get some advice regarding the immigration. She talked a lot about how I prepared this and how I prepared that, how I saved money, and all the preparation that she did. I just asked her a question. I asked, if you are ready to take this big step and big change in your life, what pain you are ready to accept? How do you want to suffer in the process of changes? The answer is important because the answer to this question determines your life and makes people different. People, they want to change their job, but they don't want to learn new things. People, they want to be rich, but they don't want to save money or work hard. People, they want to get thin, but they don't want to exercise. I know even some people who have a long list of wishes, like big house, Ferrari car, expensive watch, but they don't even eager to work and earn single penny. How it's possible? When you ask them, how are you gonna reach your dream? They start talking about the law of attraction. It's ridiculous, right? So the pain and suffering you endure is your competitive advantage. This is why you reach your dream and become successful, but others cannot. Because of the pain you accept. So now the question is that, okay, we want to do the change. I accept the change. I accept the pain, but how I overcome my fears? We always think and talk about the risk and fears of changes. But why we never talk about the risk and fear of not changing? What will happen for me in the next 5-10 years if I don't change my diet? I will be overweight. The chance of heart attack is higher. I might get the high blood pressure and many other things, right? Which I regret. This is the pain of regret. We have two types of pain. Pain of regret and pain of discipline. What will happen if I don't take the next step in my career and I stay in this current job? In the 5-10 years, I might not get a good opportunity to grow. My skill will be limited only to the current position. I will not have a chance to expand my network. This is the pain of regret, which in 10 years is out of control. And you cannot do anything about it. And just you can accept the past and the circumstances. And after a while, just let it go. But in the pain of discipline, you accept the pain because you know as a result, you get something better. You control yourself to not to do the things that you shouldn't be doing, even though those are the ones that you would rather do. And you know as a result, you get something better, right? Imagine if many years ago, I stopped moving out of the country because all the challenges that I had. Do you think today I could step into the #1 company in Sweden? Do you think if I didn't train my brain like to accept the changes. Could I accept moving from India, then to Malaysia, then to Singapore, then to Sweden? And I don't know if it's an end or not. But of course, all these trainings are with pain. I accept it. Brain training is like muscle training. In the beginning, it's painful. When you do push-up, lifting weight, maybe a few days even you cannot walk, right? But what will happen if you continue for 2-3 months? You can do more push-up. You can lift heavier weight, right? This is how our brain is worked too. Every failure and pain train us for a better success. So the first item is to accept the pain of discipline. I remember in the age of 24, when I divorced and I had 3-year-old kid, everyone in the family and friends look at me like I have done the biggest mistake in the world and I'm going to suffer a lot. But for me, I bought a box of sweets and distributed to the family and friends because I didn't want to go for the pain of regret later. I accept the pain of discipline. I knew it's painful, but I accept it because I knew that for me, it's a beginning. I believe in myself. This is what you need to do. Believe in yourself and know your value. I always say, just believe yourself and see if this is the right place you are today. Am I happy? Am I happy with my relation? Am I satisfied with my income? Am I happy with the country and the situation that I'm living? If not, change it because you worth more. You are not free to stay at one place and cannot move, right? Grow your potential, give respect to those powers and talents that remains inside you. If you are not the one who explore your strengths, then who else is going to do this job for you? In my case, I knew that. I believe myself. I knew that I'm going to create something amazing for my son and myself. Every day in my life was a new lesson for me. And the most beautiful thing I have learned, it was because of the tough days and the pain that I had. I remember a period of time in India when I didn't have enough money to pay my bills. I just look around to see what sources I have today, which those sources can make money for me. With a limited money I had, I just bought a few handmade tablecloths. And I took them with me to Iran. I sold them and I got a good profit by selling them. Then I had a bigger money next time. And I bought some jewelry stones and repeat the same thing. My purpose at that time was not to do business or become a businesswoman. I was in pain. I just wanted money. But my situation challenged me to improve my skill and learn new things that I got the value of them later in my life. When I went for the interview in Malaysia for business development position, the most thing I delivered in the interview, it was through my jewelry and tablecloths business in India. So my advice to you is that learn, work harder on yourself and face your fear. If your fear stops you on being in public and speak up, then take a chance and start to talk when you are like with people. Do muscle training. Every time you do it, you will see you are getting better and better until one day you will laugh to your fears. I know that I have a very limited time, but I want to take this chance to touch a bit about learning agility. Learning agility is about knowing how to learn, knowing what to do when you don't know what to do. I remember the first day when I joined Volvo in Sweden, I even didn't know all the Volvo Model Years car. Although I work in different industries, but I didn't have a single experience in automotive. And when I got the position in leading the program in digitalization and data transparency, I searched many times in Google to find out what exactly this position means. In 6 months, I could deliver many things which even was difficult for me myself to believe it was me who did this work. This is exactly learning agility. When you have no idea what you're going to do, you have two options: to wait for the solution to raise or to figure out how to solve the situation by yourself. The opportunity and solution for your problem, it's not something that you wait to solve. It's something you need to create. You need to be curious and eager to experiment. You need to come with some idea in order to expand the possibility. But how I come with the idea? It is about learning from experience and applying it in a new way, adapting to new circumstances and opportunities. This is how learning agility works. You need to learn from your experience, from your people, from the result. You need to practice to get the result. No one is perfect until they try many methods and practice them. Based on every new experience you get, you can develop effective behavior. This is why nowadays, like we see many companies move to agile way of working because it shows more effective way of working. I believe it is helping a lot if we move our way of living to agile way as well. These days, we have access to many podcasts, many audiobooks, YouTubes, where people, they are sharing their experiences and their mistakes. And we can learn from them and not repeating the same mistake. The fire and electricity discovered and invented like 100 years ago. So today, when we want to do barbecue, do we rub two stones together to make fire? No. Even we developed a way of heating and cooking by fire. This is exactly what I want to show you about learning agility in our life. Learning from experiences. So it is, I believe it's not too soon or too late to increase your learning agility. To summarize what we talk about, I can say developing and shifting mindset is not a small thing. It's a complex process of taking action and bringing awareness to your inner voice. To develop mindset, the first thing you need to do is to change from saying, I cannot do it, to how can I do it? What is the difference? Okay, when you say, I cannot do it, you stop your brain and limited it to a closed box. I cannot do it. Okay, finish the story. But when you say how I can do it, you are open to opportunities and thinking. You are experimenting and discovering different ways to do it. You can say, if someone did, so I can do it too. In this way, your brain start putting everything under a magnifying glass. Why? To find a solution. Therefore, you listen to and shift your inner voice to action. Then, of course, there are a lot of challenges you face in your way, but you're prepared for the pain, right? And you are ready to solve that. Embark on challenges and find a solution to handle them time by time. Your goal is clear and you know what you want to reach, right? So don't lose your way and be open to try a different way. If your current way is wrong, okay, change it. Repeat it until you find your right path to your goal. Sometimes on our way, we need to stop and look back. What I have done until today? What was wrong decision or action? What was right? Get your own feedback. And of course, your coach or mentor can help you in this case. Then with whatever feedback you took, acknowledge your faults and look for ways to overcome them. Then again, you can review your mindset and see how you develop and then repeat the same circle again and again. So to close the topic, I can say people who have a growth mindset are more successful professionally and personally. If I want to give you some tips for developing a growth mindset, I can say recognize and accept your mistake. There are 1,000 reasons you blame others for your failure. But I'm telling you, the blame is not 90%, but 100% on you. Replace the word of fail to the word learn. Never say I failed, because the failures are the biggest lessons in our life. So we just learn from our mistake. Value the process more than the end result. It is exactly the same meaning when they say, don't look at how much is your check or salary, but focus on improving your skills and work harder on yourself and daily activity. Then automatically you will see how much your check or salary is increasing too. And have a high standards for yourself. Having high standards for ourselves has more weight than you can imagine. Do not be satisfied with something that you believe you can reach more. I always say to my trainees that be happy with what you have today, but put your best effort to achieve the best of your words. It might look stressful, but put it in this way that you will challenge yourself to do new things and feel happier about yourself and your life. So now it's time to review your mindset and see if you have a fixed mindset or a grow mindset. And I hope in this short presentation, you got some tips and useful information which can help you to develop your grow mindset. And here is my name. You can connect me on LinkedIn and Instagram. And thank you very much.
So much, Sara. That was a great presentation. A lot of things to reflect on, and indeed inspirational from both Murriel and Sara's presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Perhaps we can spare one or a couple of minutes to the attendees if they have any questions. You can either write in the chat or face your fear. Open.
Yes.
Open.
Then you can open the camera and talk. Yeah. Let's practice from now.
Exactly. I can see something in the chat. Let me perhaps take a look at that. Okay, a lot of thanks from the attendees, and I can see somebody greeting Nishkarsh Arya from Google. Are you here, Nishkarsh?
Yes, I'm hearing, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi.
You said that you're from Google as well.
Yes,
Thank you for joining in today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kopika, for joining in. Any questions or any thoughts that you would like to share regarding DevOps or regarding grow mindset?
Good people. No question.
I guess it was clear, quite clear with your presentations. I would probably wait for a minute more and before we end this event. Quite interesting, Murriel. I was actually, looking at the list of women. Should I call them women tech makers now? Yeah, the past women tech makers. So it was quite interesting, and I can imagine the list, how long the list would be after the 80s until now.
Yes, there's just such an extensive list of all of these women's accomplishments, and I think to tie into what you were talking about, Sara, one thing that women might not always do is talk about, to highlight their accomplishments, or being afraid of being able to share the things that you've done. So that I think is another important thing with the community, is to be able to share with others like this.
Absolutely. There were a few points from your presentation, Sara, that I could relate to, moving from India to Sweden, and
Yeah.
my growth over the past 3 years. Yeah. All right. Looks like our attendees, our audience, do not have any questions. On that note, I would like to thank you all for joining in and being part of this International Women's Day event organized by GDG West Sweden. Hashtag progress, not perfection. And I love this theme that we have this year.
Yeah, thank you, Moksha, for hosting this event and all the preparation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Usman, for helping out with everything. And yeah, if possible, the speakers and Usman could stay back for a couple of more minutes if that's possible. And I would like to say goodbye to all our attendees. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.